Khan. All praise to the Most High. Hey, Shalom, 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 Israel. Yahweh Shem Yahshua. All right, welcome to another episode of Faith by Works. All right, where we study a commandment week in and week out to perfect our walk with the Most High God, man. All right, this is the book of Colossians, chapter 3 and verse 17. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Yahweh Shah. Give it thanks to Yahweh the Father by him. So everything that we do, all right, whether it's speaking, whether it's putting our hand to do something, right, putting forth a work, right, laboring, we do it to glorify the Lord by way of his son, right? That's why we say in the Paleo Hebrew, call Halal Yahweh by Hashem wa Malak Yahweh Shah, which means giving all honor and glory to God by way of his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. This is the book of James, chapter 2 and verse 14. What does it profit, my brethren, though a man say he have faith and have not works? Can faith save him? So simply saying that you believe in the Most High God, is that enough? Is that sufficient? Right? Verse 17 says, even so, faith, if it have not works, is dead being alone. Ye a man say, thou hast faith and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. So, all right, we show our faith, our reverence, our fear, right, our love for the Most High God with our works, with our actions. All right. Hey, when you're in a relationship with a person, whether this is your wife, whether this is your husband, whether this is a dear friend, a sister, or a brother, hey, you show forth how much you love them by the way you treat them. All right. By the actions that you put forth in that relationship. Well, this is how you determine your relationship with the Most High God. It's your works, keeping his commandments, for this is how you prove it. 1 John chapter 3 and verse 18 says, my little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. And that's very plain, man. Right? So the title of today's lesson is self-examination. Self-examination, right? A dear brother of ours, Brother Al-Haran, often hops in the chat and constantly reminds us, right, to constantly examine ourselves, our motives behind everything that we do and everything that we say. All right. Always encouraging us to what? Move in sincerity. Right. Well, I think, hey, it's definitely we're definitely overdue and bringing that out on how it's an actual commandment, how we're commanded to actually examine ourselves constantly. Right. So let's go ahead and pull them. Right. The classic 2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 5. It says, examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobates. So it's saying what? It's commanding us to constantly, all right, examine ourselves. Look in the mirror, okay? Question why we say things and why we do things. You understand? It says, prove your own selves. All right. Nobody knows you more than you know yourself. Right. So a couple weeks ago, we went over integrity. Well, this is the opportunity to keep that integrity. Right. Proving yourselves. You know, if what you're doing is off, you know the reason behind what you're doing. You know why there's an imbalance in your life. Right. You know why you didn't read for the last couple weeks. You know why, you know what I'm saying? You failed to watch some videos, but instead chose to watch other videos, not concerning the Most High God. You know why you didn't put that time in. All right. So it's time for you to keep your integrity and make that correction. Examine why you didn't do that. All right. In every way, shape, or form. That's just one example. You understand? Except you be reprobates. Right. You want to constantly examine yourself. Why? Because you want to make sure that you don't, kind of veer off the road, kind of get into an accident, kind of lose sight of the reason why you're in this thing, so on and so forth. You don't want to become of a reprobate mind, so you have to constantly examine yourselves, whether you're moving in the faith, whether you're moving in a way that is pleasing unto the Most High. And as a second precept for today's topic is Joshua 1 and verse 8. All right. The premise of today's class. It says, "This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night." All right, not just during the day, not just right before bed, but it says day and night. So constantly examine yourselves, constantly meditating on the law, statutes, and commandments, right? So you could be choosing one video out of Faith by Works, choosing one video that we shot in the streets, right? Kind of tap in with SOZ Baltimore, kind of tap in with SOZ Florida, right? Kind of tap in to see what Brother Abad is getting into, like so on and so forth, going back into the clubhouse, right? Looking at the content of Sons of Zion and meditating, all right? Letting the Spirit lead you on how you will be edified for the particular day during the day. Then at night, read you some chapters. Sit down with your wife, read some chapters, okay? Sit down with your kids, all right? And give them quizzes, so on and so forth, meditating therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. So by doing this, you join the winning team. By this, you do what is pleasing unto the Most High. By this, you're moving forward into this truth. All right, you're strengthening. All right, you're whitening your what? You're washing your garment, keeping your garment clean. You're increasing the chances of when your Yahushua comes back, you don't have on strange apparel. And we say that a lot in the streets to kind of help Eve put on a dress. But hey, strange apparel is also concerning, what you're doing when your Yahushua comes back, because we understand that, hey, he's coming like a thief in the night. And I don't know nobody who just knew the night before where they got their car broken into. And they kind of come outside, they chirp their alarm, and they see their things sitting on bricks, or they see glass all over the ground, and they didn't got their car broken into. Tell me a person that just knew when that was gonna happen, and then you'll have an idea of how we don't know when Yahushua is coming back. So we have to make sure that we are making our way prosperous and meditating. That way we're staying in the spirit. That way we're constantly making sure our garments is clean, man. But with that, I yield, King. You got it.
Khan. Hey, Shalom, Israel. Hey, mighty intro, King. I'll be honest with you. You asked me before we started if I was gonna get that Psalm chapter 19.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna have to, King. So one thing we have to understand first and foremost, right, is that the Most High God gave us these laws, statutes, and commandments for a reason, right? He gave us, we've been saying it for the last few weeks now, right? We are that piece of furniture that came out the IKEA box, right? And in these scriptures, it's that instruction manual on how to put that piece of furniture together, right? Well, if you want that piece of furniture to be put together upright, sturdy, perfect, the way that the picture on the box look, right? Well, you have to follow the instructions of the instruction manual, right? There's no other way around it. If you try to do your own thing, right? Try to take out a few steps of the instructions, right, and replace them with your own steps, or try to just freestyle the thing like a lot of us do, right? We're gonna come up with a finished product that's nothing like what it was intended to be, right? And we all want to be what we're intended to be, right? And we bring this out of camp every single week. What are we intended to be? Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. It says, "For thou art an holy people." Holy means separate, right? We're a people that's meant to be separate unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth, right? This is the picture that's on the front of that IKEA box, right? So we have to put a great amount of importance, the greatest amount of importance on that instruction manual, right? It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 55. Why do we do this? Why is the instruction manual so important, right? Well, because the instruction manual came from who? The manufacturer, the creator, so to speak, right? Can that piece of furniture understand the ways of that creator? No, right? It's just there as a creation. And intended purpose is to be what that manufacturer has created it to be, right? It's not its purpose to think of why am I a couch or a desk or whatever it may be. Those thoughts are much higher than we are, right? Here, real quick. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 55 and verse 8. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Most High. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts," right? It's not our place to try to think about or figure out why it is we're told to do the things that we're told to do, why it is we're told to live the way that we're told to live. No, that's not our role. That's not our place. We just have to do these things, right? And again, going off on our own little tangents, our own little instructions, right? That's moving contrary to what the manufacturer wants us to do. And that's a very dangerous thing. Like the brother brought out in Joshua 1 and 8, you have to meditate on these instructions day in and day out, right? Because moving opposite is highly detrimental. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 14 and verse 12. It says, "There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death," right? Hold on real quick. So like if you got a third party over here. So yeah, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're always taking heed to the instructions, because we don't want to be that piece of furniture that when it's all said and done and we're a so-called finished product, we're not able to stand at the end of the day, right? Because we didn't follow the instructions. How can we stand when we're doing things out of our own mind and not out of the mind of the Most High God, not out of the will of the Most High God? How can we stand when we're practicing our own will in our own ways, right? That's not the doctrine. That's the doctrine of devils. Do as thou wilt. It's the doctrine of devils, right? But we have a perfect doctrine given by the Most High God. Book of Proverbs, chapter 4 and verse 2. It says, "For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law," right? We don't want to forsake the things that the Most High has given us. For example, right? We bring out Leviticus 11 and 7 every single week at camp, right? The scriptures tell us it may look like a clean animal, but it chews not the cud. So it's unclean to you. Don't eat it. Don't touch the carcass, right? It's not our position to go into, well, why, Most High, do you say we can't eat pork? Like, what exactly, other than it being unclean? Like, what does that mean? That's not our place. The Most High says don't do it, so we don't do it, right? It's not up for debate at that point. It's something that your parents tell you all the time when you're a kid. This is not up for debate, right? These are things that the Most High has ordained, and you can do it and live, or not do it and perish, right? The end thereof is the ways of death. That way that seems right to a man, being righteous in your own eyes, right? It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 6 and verse 23. It says, "For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life," right? We all say we want to be saved. We want to have life, living more abundantly. We want to have that everlasting life that the scriptures promises to those that love the Most High, right? Of the nation of Israel, of course. Well, that's the picture again on that box of furniture that you got from IKEA. How can you get that picture without following the instructions? These instructions are of high importance, and we always have to make sure that we're constantly meditating on these instructions. I'm gonna get one more and I'm gonna pass it real quick. I gotta go give a spanking to a 2-year-old. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30. It's a classic. In verse number 11, it says, "For this commandment, which I command thee this day, it is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven, that thou shouldst say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? Neither is it beyond the sea, that thou shouldst say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very nigh unto thee, in thy mouth and in thy heart, that thou mayest do it. Right? We have these scriptures. We've been having these scriptures even before the truth. Right? We all got that auntie or that big mama or the grandma that always had that dusty Bible sitting on the table in the common area. Right? These scriptures have always been there, even for the Christians out there. Right? If you go to an old Southern Baptist or Methodist church and you sit in them long wooden benches, they got the little cubbies on the back of them. A lot of times, right next to a hymnal, they have the scriptures right there. Right? These words have always been right there for us. These instructions have always been there for us, so we can build up into that picture that's on the box instead of building up in our own ways. Right? And with that, I'm gonna yield.
Ken, I kind of want to lay me back off one of the points you made, man. You know, we come from a lot of us come from that Christian church, right? A lot of us come from getting our minds the way we think cultivated by, the big mamas, you know, Uncle Nuck Nuck, Pojo, my favorite cousin Pojo, and so on and so forth, right? This is how our way of thinking is cultivated. But once you come into this truth, all of that changes. You understand? So what I've come up with is kind of a few ways on like how I would encourage my brother or sister to examine themselves. All right. Now that you come into this truth, the old way of thinking and the source of quote unquote wisdom, which is of the world, we see it as now. We now have to put that behind us. We now have to really think how the Most High thinks. We have to hate what the Most High God hates. And we have to love and find delight in his word. You understand? So we have to become converted in our minds, right? That's part of that constant examination, right? So what we have to do is break the bad habits because we are new, right? I'm going to start off with the classic where the brother pulled Psalm 19:7. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous together. Right? So you have to look at this law that the Most High God has put forth and look at it as literally a book of conviction. All right. When you look at the gym, a lot of people think, you know what I'm saying, big muscles, you know what I'm saying, huge quads, you know what I mean, huge traps, so on and so forth. But in order to get that, that vision, you have to do what? You have to put yourself through a whole bunch of discomfort. All right, you have to break down your muscles. And that's what you have to do when you come into this truth. You want to really examine yourself and constantly stay grounded. Don't come up in this thing just wanting the end result. Just boom, kingdom. No, it don't work like that. All right, you have to be tried as silver and gold is tried in order to get it. This is the book of Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. All right. Hey, you were conformed to this world when you were hearing all of the wisdom and all of the parables from, Uncle Nuck Nuck. You know what I'm saying? He'll sit you down and he'll literally talk about, how it was in the 70s and the 80s. And then he'll give you, wisdom, right? But when we look at First Corinthians 3:19, we see that the wisdom of this world is foolish with God, right? So now we see you have the true wisdom here. We see that this is our constitution. Okay. Not all of the little, you know what I'm saying, smooth words and stuff of this world. You understand? Now, does this mean we just completely disregard and disrespect our elders? Absolutely not. We take them with a filtration system, and we understand that they've been here longer, so we can still learn from some of the things, but we have to really use the Bible to filter out, all right, what's bad and what's good, all right? But we still respect our elders. I want to make sure I get that clear, all right? Our next precept will be 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. It says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. So what we have to do is, all right, in order to stay grounded and to also prepare ourselves of constant examination in this truth, we have to understand that the devil always desires to have us, man. So we have to be very, very mindful of all of his different wiles, if you will, his strategic devices to take us out the spirit. All right. Because then will you be able to, you'll have what I like to say, the preparation, right? The tools needed to get the job done of constant examination. You have to understand that this stuff, this world that we live in is designed for us to lose. You feel what I'm saying? So in Esau's kingdom, whether it's food, whether it's forms of entertainment, all right, the environments that you can only afford, right, the public schooling, right, and the list goes on and on. Everything that you look at, it's designed for you to lose and come out the spirit. And then when you understand that, you will be able to really examine yourself and understand how, I have to constantly be on the watch. I have to constantly be vigilant. You understand? Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 11, it says, put on the whole armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. And when you read Ephesians 6, you see what the whole armor of God is. And that's what the brother was bringing up. These laws, statutes, and commandments, constantly reading, looking at the accounts of old to see how you can deal with certain trials and tribulations that the Lord is going to bring you through. You understand? Haggai chapter 1 and verse 7, it says, thus said the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Right? So not only are you examining, you looking at, your surroundings, and you're being watchful on how things can take you out the spirit. You're making sure that you're not conforming to the old you and the wisdom of your OGs and the people in the world. But now you're conforming to this Bible. You're recognizing that the law of the Lord is perfect in converting the soul. Hey, you have to consider your ways. That's what it's talking about in 2 Corinthians 13 and 5. Examine yourselves, right? The proving process is what? Considering your ways. Why did I do this? Hey, I might have said something that offended this brother. Let me call him real quick and reconcile and say, hey, King, you know what I'm saying? I was just checking up on you, man. Hey, did I offend you when I said this? I want to make sure that I touch bases with you. That's showing love to your brother. You understand? Hey, I think I was a little harsh earlier, man. I hope I ain't offend you. You know what I'm saying? I kind of want to retract some of the things that I said, and I kind of want to smooth things over and get you to really understand where I'm coming from. See what I'm saying? That's very, very important when you're considering your ways. All right? About two more, and then I'm going to pass it, King. Right? This is the book of Sirach, chapter 14, and I'm going to start at verse 20. It says, blessed is a man that doth meditate good things in wisdom, and that reasoneth of holy things by his understanding. He that considereth her ways in his heart shall also have understanding in her secrets, right? So, hey, we see in Wisdom of Solomon 1 and verse 4, it says that, hey, into a malicious soul, wisdom cannot enter. Well, right here it's saying when you consider your ways, you're more susceptible to the wisdom that you desire. All right. So what we have to do is we have to do what the commandment of the week says, and meditating therein day and night on the law, statutes, and commandments. Right. Because the furthermore you do this, the furthermore you examine yourself and consider your ways on how you interact with the people around you in this truth, hey, you obtain and you grow in this truth more and more. You obtain that wisdom that you so desire. Lastly, I'm going to go to Sirach chapter 6 and verse 37. It says, let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish thine heart and give thee wisdom at thine own desire. Right? So basically giving you that, that in a more plainer sense, giving you a precept to the Sirach 14, right? You obtain the wisdom the more you meditate on the ordinances, right? So these are the preparing tools that you'll need, right? The powering tools, if you will, to be able to successfully examine yourself day in and day out. All right. You want to make sure that you're meditating on the law. You're considering your ways and understanding that man that I see in the reflection of this mirror is not perfect. He will never be. He will fall short just like the next man. We're better than nobody. You understand? But we have to make sure that we're living within the oracles of God. I yield there, kid.
Con. Hey, I'm a point you were making about the devil. Always, it's constantly trying to devour us, destroy us. That's a perfect alley-oop, right? Because it's the truth. The devil is literally, you read the book of Job, that's what the whole thing is about, right? The devil is literally set up to try you. Most of our people are going to fall, but there's a certain a few that are going to make it, right, through quenching the fiery darts that Satan is going to send our way, right? The brother brought up Ephesians chapter 6. I want to get there real quick. I'm not going to get the whole thing, but I'm going to get the point that I want. Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 16. It says, above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, right? The wicked is constantly trying to get us to go astray, constantly trying to get us to go off. Why? Because when we sin against the Most High God, we become in a lower estate, and then they become at a higher estate over us, right? They start becoming counterfeit pictures, right, of that piece of IKEA furniture that you bought, right? Meanwhile, you're sitting in the scrap heap. You want to have that faith that you're able to quench all those fiery darts that are meant to keep you low, right? So let's cook on this faith thing for a second, right? Let's cook on that. It's the book of Hebrews, classic, chapter 11, verse 6. It says, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him, right? Isaiah chapter 55, verse 6, the Most High tells you to seek the Lord while he may be found, right? You have to be diligent when you really believe in something, when you really have faith in something. If you, brothers bring it out actually, they haven't brought it out recently, but I remember when I first joined the body, brothers used to bring it out all the time, right? You have a homeboy, say he's a basketball player, right? And he might have some talent, might have some skill or whatever. He could be prospected to go all the way to the league one day, right? If you're his friend and you truly believe that was his trajectory, that was his path, he's going to be in the NBA someday, right? You're going to always show up to his games, supporting, may even show up to practices, supporting. You're gonna try to do what you got to do to make sure he don't get into no trouble, to support him. You're going to do whatever you got to do to see what your belief is come to fruition, right? It's got to be the same thing when we say we believe in the Most High God. We believe that there's a kingdom for us, right? We have to have that faith. Well, how do you attain that faith, right? How do you get it? The book of Romans, chapter 10, in verse 17, it says, so then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, right? We have to be in this book, in this instruction manual. It's going to always come back to the instruction manual, right? We build our faith by hearing the words of the Most High God, right? Revelation chapter 1 and verse 3, right? It says, blessed is he that readeth And they that hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand, right? So not only do you have to read, but you have to keep these things. You have to do these things, right? That's how you build your faith. We bring it out every single week. Faith without works is dead, right? You want to have living faith because that's what's going to be pleasing unto the Most High God, right? We want that salvation. We want an everlasting kingdom for our people that we may live for eternity in prosperity, right? Well, we have to read to build up that faith in what we say we believe in, and we have to keep those things to show that we actually believe in it, right? And we can't do that if those things aren't constantly in our minds, right? If we're not constantly going over those things in our head, right? The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 17. In verse 19, right? It says, and it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Most High God, to keep all his words of this law and these statutes, to do them, right? We have to always read and always perform that spiritual maintenance, right? Because without that spiritual maintenance, we're going to break down. We're going to break down. These words are here to wash us, to cleanse us, to build us up, right? Study to show thyself approved, right? These scriptures are given. Every scripture is given to us for our learning, right? These are examples of real factual accounts, right? Of righteous forefathers and foremothers and wicked forefathers and foremothers, right? How to do things and how not to do things, right? These are the ways that the Most High has given us for an example that we may stay on that narrow path, and we have to meditate on them lest we veer off course, right? And it's real easy to veer off course, like the brother was bringing out. It's just like working out, right? You can spend a summer working on your bench press, right? And you can start at the beginning of the summer, you probably only bench 135, right? By the end of the summer, you probably benching 225, 250, right? Well, what happens once that summer is over and you decide to scale all the way back or just stop going to the gym altogether? Say you're going to take a break, right? Well, by the time December get here, right, probably even sooner than that, you try to go into that gym and get under that bench press bar and they put 225, 250 on the bar and you try to go and lift it, right? You're going to crush your chest. It's real easy. We have to make sure we maintain that spiritual maintenance, right? The same way for all those fitness enthusiasts that are out there, the same way that we would maintain our bodies, we always being very meticulous about the type of things that we eat, the type of workouts that we do, the timing of everything, right? Sleep schedules, a whole bunch of other things. How much more so when it comes to maintaining your spirit, something that you can't see, that inner man, right? It's the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 4. I'm sorry, verse 8, right? It says, for bodily exercise profited little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that is now and of that which is to come, right? Exercising godliness, right? It's exercising godliness and building that faith, right? That's actually showing that you're dedicated to something that eyes have not seen nor ears have heard, right? That you're dedicated to something that the whole rest of the world will call you foolish for, right? Because to those that can't see, to those that don't have the spirit, the world will say that there's no physical evidence of the Most High God. But you know that there's evidence of the Most High God because, right, you're building your spirit, you're building your faith. You know these things exist, right? Verse 9 says, this is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptation. For therefore we both labor and suffer reproach because we trust in the living God, right? So we never push the narrative that as soon as you go to serve the Most High God and you do the things that He said, you about to have all types of riches and abundance, and you're gonna be just successful beyond measure here on this plane. No, we don't push that. We push that we're gonna go through things, right? And these things are a trying of your faith. They build your faith, according to Sirach chapter number 2, right? So we always have to make sure we keep that in mind, right? It says, trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially of those that believe. These things command and teach. It says, let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word and conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and purity, right? And how do you make sure that you keep all of those systems working, right? You know, take it to machinery, right? How do you make sure all of those systems are working when you do your check, right? Well, first and foremost, you have to have something to line it up by, right? And again, that thing that you line it up by is the instruction manual. You recognize real quick if you build in the desk, and I'm gonna keep using this desk. That's gonna be the word of 2025. You're gonna realize real quick if you build in a desk, and by the time you get, let's say, a third of the way through, and the top of the desk is where the wheels are supposed to be, and the wheels is where the monitor is supposed to sit, and then you look at the instruction manual and be like, oh snap, I'm doing it wrong. You realize that real quick, right? That's what's called examination, examining through the word of the Most High God, right? It says, let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word and conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and purity. We have to be examples for the rest of our people. And the only way we can do that is by constantly meditating on the words of the Most High God, right? We can't help our people build themselves up to be proper desks. We're rolling around upside down because we ain't been following the instructions. Verse 13, it says, till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Again, reading, right? Building each other up. Doctrine, the law, right? It says, neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given thee by prophecy, with the laying on of the hands of the presbytery. It says, meditate upon these things. Give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all, right? At the end of the day, the people that are in the fitness world, right? They give all of this diligence. They neglect nothing when it comes to building their bodies up, right? And when it's all said and done, once they've reached whatever goal they're trying to reach, right, their results are displayed and everybody sees it, right? They don't worry about what people see in the midterm. What they're worrying about is making sure they're doing every little step correctly. That's what they're worrying about in the moment. And that's what we have to be worried about in the moment, right? Is making sure that we're ironing out everything that the Lord told us to do and to not do, and to make sure we're adhering to that, right? And if we can do that, then our goal at the end is going to be there, right? It's going to be there. Our profit is going to be there, Most High willing, right? But you have to have that faith. It says, meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. It says, take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine, continue in them, right? What is taking heed? It means listening to the warning. And this whole book is full of lamentations, mourning, and woe, right? And prophesying of much destruction that's going to come into this land before the kingdom is established here, right? We have to make sure that we take heed unto those warnings, and we look at ourselves to make sure that we can come out on the end of that, right? To make sure that we're a desk that stands when it's time to put a computer on that mug, right? And there's computers about to be dropped any moment now, right? You have to continue in these things, right? It says, take heed unto thyself and unto doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this, thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee, right? We all want this salvation. Well, we're not going to get it unless we're taking heed and constantly meditating on the words of the Most High God. That instruction manual that's showing us how to be that desk on the picture of the box. Right? We have to make sure that we're constantly in these things. We're batteries at the end of the day, right? And every single battery needs what? To be charged, to be recharged, right? Every single battery depletes after a while. So we have to make sure that we stay instant in season and out of season, and we stay meditating, we stay rooted, right, by the waters that the Most High God is giving us, right, to heal us. It's the book of which one do I want? Which one do I want? So I can either I'm gonna get Luke or I'm gonna get Jeremiah. Hold on, let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna get Jeremiah because it fits better. It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse number 7. It says, "Blessed in the man that trusted in the Most High, and whose hope the Most High is. For he shall be as a tree planted by waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat cometh. For her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit." Right? We are those trees. We want to be those trees, right? We want to make sure that we're constantly planted, right, by these waters, right, these scriptures, this instruction manual. That way, when all hell breaks loose, right, and death and destruction comes to the whole world, especially to this patch of dirt we call America, right, Babylon, we want to make sure that we're in a position to where we're feeding from the Most High God and we've been bearing fruit, right? Because the Most High God is coming for those that bear fruit, and those that bear not fruit or good fruit are hewn down and cast into the fire. Let me get one more. I'm going to pass it. It's the book of Luke, chapter 18. And I'm going to start from the top, right? It says, "And he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, there was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while, but after he said within himself, though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me." Right? This is somebody that's constantly knocking on the door. That's constantly seeking the Most High. That's constantly looking for the things in which the Most High God has promised to us, and that's through faith. Right? Verse 6, it says, "And the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge saith. And shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them?" Right? Who are those crying day and night? Right? Book of Ezekiel, those that sigh and cry for all the wickedness, all the abominations that be done in the land. Right? How can you sigh and cry for these things if you know not the law? If you're not meditating therein and day in and day out. Right? Verse 8, it says, "I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth?" Question mark. At the end of the day, again, without faith, it's impossible to please him. And that faith comes by hearing, meditating, and doing the words of the Most High God. Right? And with that, I yield.
King, mighty points, mighty points. I don't know nobody who would try to put together an IKEA desk and just look at the instructions one time. You know, it involves yourself looking at that instruction manual constantly throughout the building process. That's what I was thinking about the entire time you was using that similitude, right? And also when you go into the gym, you know, Brother Gabor gets on me all the time about how, hey, King, you can lift as many weights as you want. You can go to the gym as many times as you want throughout the week. If you're not watching your macronutrients, all right, and closely examining what you're putting into your body, you're gonna be just spinning your wheels, right? So just a moment of confession, my challenge has always been the portion sizes. You know what I'm saying? I like to eat. And then what I like to do is I like to get in the gym and turn all of that into muscle. When it's not about that, it's more to it than that, especially if you're going for a certain physique. You understand? So what we have to do is we have to constantly look at this thing like spiritual maintenance, like going to the gym, like assembling a desk, right? Another thing, right now I'm raising up, a flock of chickens, right? And in order for them to grow thereby, right, and to not die on me in the early stages of their life, we have to make sure that we're constantly examining, all right, their living conditions, steady cleaning out their brooder box, trying to make sure that they got airflow, trying to make sure that they're getting the proper protein with the feed that I'm choosing from the feed store, so on and so forth. Hey, we have to look at this in a spiritual aspect, right? In order for us to prosper in this truth, we have to constantly examine our living conditions. Are we working out? Hey, are we building? You know what I'm saying? So on and so forth, right? So one of the things that we also need to uh, really consider is the counsel that we keep. Okay, the counsel that we keep, who we hang around. You understand? Because that's literally what we're eating of. Right. This is the book of Psalm chapter 1, and I'm gonna start it from. Matter of fact, we're gonna read the whole 6 verses. Right, the whole prayer. Psalm chapter 1 from the top. It says, "Blessed is a man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful." Hey, we have to watch who we listen and take recommendations from. You understand? Because they could have us going left. They could keep us from, doing what our first love refers to as in the scriptures, right? Our first love, we were making videos. You understand? Our first love, we were watching videos. Hey, we were going on flyer missions or trying to put together flyer missions, right? We were different when we first came into this thing. Our zeal was extremely high. But now that we're kind of taking counsel from somebody else, hey, we're seeing things in a different lens, and we're making light of something, and we're no longer, our fire is no longer as high and it's as strong as it used to be, right? And it's because of the influence. It's because of what we're eating on. You understand, right? We have to constantly examine that, man, right? And in reading on, it says, "But his delight is the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night, and he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water." Right? A tree planted by water. You're going to be strong. You're going to be grounded. You're going to soar high. You understand? Reading on, that says, "That bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish." Hey, it's a flip side. It's a cause and effect. And it's a very plain prayer. It's saying, watch who you take counsel from, watch who you hang around, because when you stand in the counsel of the company of the ungodly, of the ones that's going off, the ones that's that's always talking down on the company that you keep, on the things that you do, the way that you move. Hey, eventually you're going to be likened unto that, all right, unto that tree that's bearing forth no fruit, that's withering away, right? That's likened unto a city without walls, so on and so forth. You'll start to become that and start withering it away. And next thing you know, you have a reprobate mind. Next thing you know, you're keeping the company of the miserable. You understand? So we have to really, really closely examine the company and the counsel that we keep, right? Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 14, it says, "Where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Hey, when you're accompanying, right, the counsel of the godly, okay, and this godly counsel is coming from the scriptures, okay, hey, you're safe. All right, you're safe. You have shelter. You're standing within the refuge and the protection of the Most High God. All right. Jeremiah 17 and verse 9, it says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So we have to lean not on our own understanding when we're examining ourselves. You understand? This is how we stem away from, you know, the counsel of the actual scriptures, not thinking for our own selves. All right. Constantly looking to the scriptures as our way of thinking. That's the whole transforming thing. Because back in the world, what do? We used our hearts to move about and to dwell. But now we use the scriptures as our constitution and our way of thinking. You understand? We use the scriptures as our counsel. And then if anybody is using the scriptures for their counsel, hey, that's who we accompany. You understand? I'm going to get a couple more, and then I'm going to pass it right back to you, King. All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 21 and verse 13. It says the knowledge of a wise man shall abound like a flood, and his counsel is like a pure fountain of life. The inner parts of a fool are like a broken vessel, and he will hold no knowledge as long as he liveth. Hey, you're going to be stagnant, and you're going to be likened unto a container that's leaking water. That's a fuel tank that's leaking fuel, right? A faulty line, if you will. A pipe that's leaking, and next thing you know, it's kind of making your sheetrock up top all bubbly, flaky, and soft. And then next thing you know, you got your leak, and it's falling on through your roof. All right, that's what you're likened unto. All right, so we have to make sure that we are practicing that good counsel. All right, giving the good counsel, if you will, and watching the company that we keep. All right. Lastly, let's see what I want. We're gonna go to Sirach chapter 37. I'm gonna just get 12. Right. I really wanted to start at 7, but for the concept of time, I'm gonna get the point at 12. It says, but be continually with the godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. So you need somebody that's going to hold you accountable. All right. You need somebody that is going to, look out for you. Make sure that you're not moving out of the spirit and actually moving in the spirit. That's part of keeping good counsel, right? And how does this fall under self-examination? Is because, hey, this is what we were just talking about, spiritual maintenance. You see how it's all tying together? I hope I'm making sense, right? Is when you're actually self-examining, you're watching who you're around, who you're putting into your ears, right? Because, like, look, if you rolling up the street all week long and you listening to, I don't know, Mo3 and Tupac, you're going to develop a evil eye towards your brother because of the counsel that you're keeping, the spirit that you're accompanying. So you have to be careful on who you constantly talking to and who you're constantly being around, because now you'll start stemming off from your first love. Now you don't make videos. You're kind of being invited to do some videos, and you know what I'm saying? And we're coming up with all kind of excuses not to do it, right? I was going to read a few chapters, but now I'm not doing it, right? And the brother, Kasadia, and I was just going into how if you want to stay in the spirit and constantly examine yourself, you have to constantly be reading, constantly be meditating day in and day and night, right? Well, the proof is in the pudding. You understand? But I'm going to yield there, King.
Con, hey, that's like a perfect segue. That's the spirit. Hey, so like the brother said, you always want to make sure that you're constantly examining through the lens of the scriptures, right? Because at the end of the day, no other counsel that you can get from any other source is going to lead you to that kingdom that we desperately seek, right? All that counsel is just going to run us ragged at the end of the day. We're not going to be a well built, put together, sturdy, solid desk, right? We're just gonna be, I don't know, a pile of wood somewhere with some wheels on it, right? We always have to make sure that we're constantly examining through the scriptures, not examining through the ways of the world, not examining through your best friends, your homeboys, your homegirls, whatever y'all see on TV, on Instagram, none of the sort, right? These scriptures are our ways of life. These scriptures are our heritage, right? According to Sirach 17 and 11, right? This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11, and verse number 18. It says, therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes, right? The people that have this are the complete opposite of those that are in the world, right? This is the complete opposite of that mark of the beast, according to Revelation 6, according to the book of Revelation, the 5th chapter. Right. So we always have to make sure we have this frontlet between our eyes, right? This frontlet of the Most High, these words, these commandments, these laws, statutes, the prophets, right? The whole book, right, has to be as frontlets in front of our eyes, right? It's the book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 23. It says, but if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that light, right? If you're constantly soaking in the ways of the world, like the brother was bringing out, right? If you're constantly listening to Mo3 and Tupac, right? If you're constantly watching these little drama shows that they always, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but Tubi and Netflix, they have non-stop TV series and movies that depict our people going through the most debaucherous of situations, right? And our people eat that up. If we're constantly ingesting those things, right? If we're constantly drinking waters from those cisterns, right? Proverbs chapter 5, right? Then when we come out looking like a rocking chair instead of a desk, we can't wonder why the things are that they are. The things are the way that they are, right? We can't sit here and question why the Most High God has allowed our nation to be trodden underfoot. We can't sit here and be surprised when we sit here and we watch our sons and our daughters get murdered every single day and no justice. No, we the answer is we weren't following these instructions, right? The answer is when we were supposed to be a desk, we wanted to be the desk that we saw in our mind, right? And now we look like a footstool instead of a desk, right? It's the book of Isaiah chapter 30 that the brother was going into. You have to take heed to the type of counsels that you're taking, right? Take heed to the type of information that you're bringing in, right? There's a myriad of information that our people have absorbed themselves into that have nothing to do with the scriptures, right? Whether it be with the 5%ers, right? FBA, right? Hotep, Kemetic, all of that stuff, man. All of these things are doctrines that the world gave us. These are fiery darts that the devil has fired at us, right? To remove us from the heritage that the Most High God has made for us, right? This book of Isaiah chapter 30, starting at verse 1. It says, woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, right? If you don't have this frontlet between your eyes, if you're not looking through the world through the lens of the scriptures, right, and moving accordingly, right? The Most High God says, woe to you, because you're a rebellious child, right? To anybody out there that has kids, right? You train up your child and you teach them, you give them instruction, you correct them, you do this, that, and the third. But if they go out and do things contrary to everything that you have raised them up to be, right? Then at the end of the day, what can you do? Once they're adults already, what can you do? Right? Most you can do is pray for them, right? But you're not going to sit there and pardon what they did, right? Because you don't have that power. You're not going to sit there and reward them either, right? The Most High God is not going to reward us for doing things that the world has taught us to do. He's only going to reward us for doing the things that he told us to do, right? And he told us to meditate on those things. That way he can reward us. If we're constantly meditating on those things that are going to get us rewarded, then what's going to end up happening eventually? Most High willing, we're going to get rewarded, right? Verse 2, it says that walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and trust in the shadow of Egypt, right? All these people that are out here trying to build their own desk out of a desk that was already manufactured to be a certain way, right? This is who the Most High God is talking about. It says, therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be a shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion, right? We're not able to solve our own problems with our own mind and our own strength. We're not able to solve our own problems by following the ways that the world told us to solve our problems, right? There's no amount of schooling you can go to get no type of degree that can give you any type of high paying job. There's nothing like that that's going to give you salvation, right? There's nothing like that that's going to give you treasures that won't rust, nor do thieves steal, nor do moth corrupt, right? There's no amount of wisdom of this world that's going to give you those things, right? Only the wisdom that comes from the Most High God, which is supposed to be a frontlet between our eyes, right? Which is supposed to be the way we view the world. Those are the only things that are going to profit us at the end of the day, right? Book of Isaiah chapter 31 and verse 1. It says, woe to them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. Again, Isaiah chapter 55 says, seek ye the Lord while he may be found, right? He's literally giving you the blueprint, right, on not only how to have life more abundantly, but life forever and life in rulership over the other nations, right? He's giving you these things, but we're not seeking after them, right? We're out here trying to do our own thing, thinking that we're going to save ourselves, right? We're out here making flesh our own arms, right? Verse 2, it says, yet he also is wise and will bring evil and will not call back his words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers and against the help of them that work iniquity. All you're doing at the end of the day, you think you're doing your own way. You think you're going to have something to brag and boast about when it's all said and done. All you're doing is ensuring your own destruction. At the end of the day, moving your own way is ensuring your own destruction. Every one of us that has a job, we don't kind of go to work and do what we want to do. We do what our employers tell us to do, right? We do what boss man tells us to do, right? Because what? We want something out of it when it's all said and done, that paycheck, so that we can feed our families, right? How much more so with the Most High God? We want something from him that's far greater than we can ever expect from any employer, yet we meditate on the rules and regulations of the job more than we meditate on the rules and regulations of walking as a servant of the Most High God, right? And that ought not to be, right? Verse 3, it says, now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit, right? Your employer, he can die just like you can. He can go to jail just like you can. He can go off just like you can, right? He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like you can, right? But we give, again, more trust in his rules and regulations and procedures than the Most High God, right? It says, when the Lord shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is hoping shall fall down, and they all shall fail together, right? So even all of these wicked counselors that you're heaping up to yourselves, these wicked teachers that you're heaping up to yourselves in order to help you get what you think that you deserve or greatly desire in this world, Well, not only are they going to be destroyed, but you're going to get destroyed with them, right? The Most High God gave you the instructions, right? Why would you take the instruction manual for a desk and swap it with the instruction manual for an oil change? It makes no sense, right? But that's the way that we're walking in wicked Babylon. Let's go back to Hebrews. Chapter 11, and verse number 7, right? It says, by faith. Again, it goes to that faith word, right? Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith, right? So by faith, right? Again, it's not something that's seen, right? We have to make sure that we move in all diligence and all obedience with this thing that we say we believe in. We can't say that we believe and we're out here just not doing certain things, right? We're out here doing what we want to do. We can't say that we want this desk that we see on this picture, and when it's time to assemble that thing, we're not even looking at the instructions, right? We're not building that faith, and we're not obeying according to that faith, right? Verse 8, it says, by faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which had foundations, whose builder and maker is the Most High, right? And that's what we're looking for, right? But, well, if you read it, it'll explain itself. Verse 11, through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth, right? This faith that you're supposed to have, right? When you're meditating and building and growing thereof, it's going to make you feel like you're not a part of this world. Like you're an alien here, right? So as an alien, what gain is it to follow after the ways of the world, the doctrines of the world, the doctrines of devils, right? The success plan that this world is going to give you. What profit does it give you when you're an alien here, right? That only profits those that are of this world, right? And a lot of times it don't even profit them, but that's another story for another day, right? As an alien, you should know for good and fact that the things that are of this world are not of a profit to you. They are of a detriment to you. We are supposed to be contrary to this world, right? It says, for they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country, and we seek a country, right? We seek that kingdom of heaven. But again, the difference between those that are going to receive it and those that are just going to be cast to the wayside is that faith. Verse 15, and truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country that is in heavenly, right? We don't have time to sit here and consider how good we had it in Egypt, as wicked forefathers did in the wilderness, right? We have no time to sit here and consider the lifestyle that we can make for ourselves here in captivity. No, we're in captivity. At the end of the day, you can be $1 billion slave. Look at Diddy, right? We're looking for something that's far better, far, far better. And the only way we're going to get that is through faith. And the only way we're going to build that faith is through reading, right? And meditating and doing, obeying the things that the Most High God is telling us to do, right? It says, wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, and he hath prepared for them a city, right? The Most High God, his work is already established. It's not all complete yet, but it's already written, right? And we can learn from those things. That's what gives us hope, right? That's what gives us faith to continue on, right? But again, faith without works is dead. That's why we title this class "Faith by Works," right? And the only way that you can make sure you do the work properly is if you're continuously meditating on the things, on the instructions, right? That the job requires, right? We have a job to do, right? And the job requires certain things. The only way we're going to be good and proficient at that job is if we're constantly having those things in our mind, right? The minute those things come out of our mind, the minute those things get replaced by something else that we're indulging in, right? That's when we're not effective at our jobs anymore, right? And Ecclesiastes 12:13 says our whole duty is to fear God and keep the commandments, right? So with that, I got one more, and then I yield. The book of Psalms, the classic, 119, started verse 59. It says, I thought on my ways and turned my feet unto thy testimonies, right? Consider what you are doing, right? Examine yourself, right? Examine it. But what is your litmus test? What is the mirror? What is your barometer, so to speak? What are you examining it and comparing it to? Verse 60, I made haste and delayed not to keep thy commandments, right? The hands of the wicked have robbed me, but I have not forgotten thy law. At the end of the day, we don't want to forget these things, because these things are the ways of life. And if we want that life, then we're going to constantly meditate on it. We're going to constantly undergo spiritual maintenance, just like a fitness enthusiast will constantly undergo routine workouts and diet plans and this, that, and the third. The same way that anybody who wants anything out of life is going to be diligent in the things that they want, right? We have to have that. We have to have even more diligence for the Most High God. We say we want a kingdom. We say we want a better country. Well, we better start having on our minds at all times what it takes to get that, right? And with that, I yield.
King. Hey, we pressed for time. It's probably best we go ahead and close it out right here so we can make it to camp on time. Hey, with that, we're gonna go ahead and close out. All right, that's the class. Lord willing, somebody was edified or will be edified in the coming days. All right, we'll see about doing that part 2 next week, most definitely. I still had quite a few precepts to bring out, but we didn't want to do like a whole 2-hour setup and then be pressed for time. So, all right, Israel, we love y'all. Hey, until next week. Hey, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom.